score a touchdown every drive.
We just want to see him play hard and play well.
I'm just going to approach it like the same way and just go out there and, play my hardest.
It's Adams again! The connection and the touchdown! 73 yards! Here is Khalil Herbert. Look at the speed! The shot of the tackle and a touchdown! Go Bears!
It's time for the Bears Nation podcast. With your hosts, Kevin Lapka.
I still think he can be serviceable enough there at left tackle. That's an upgrade. Is that an upgrade over Charles Leno? You at least can't say it's a downgrade.
And Jake Hassan.
They're going to get murdered out there. It's bad. Throw me through the wood chipper. I'd rather take that fate over whatever meets the Bears starting quarterback week 1.
Shall we play a game?
Strap it in. It's the Bears Nation podcast. Let's get it.
Bears Nation podcast. It is November 3rd. It is Wednesday. It is a preview episode after yesterday's recap episode. Couldn't think of the word there for a second. Myself, Jake Hassan, joined as always by Kevin Lapka. We have a big game to preview tonight. We are going to preview the Steelers game that is on Monday night. We'll do a couple quick notes on the 49ers game too, because we have another astounding guest. Another astounding guest.
It's unbelievable.
It's unreal. It's unbelievable what we've been able to cobble together here. It really is. Probably way above our pay grade, but it's fine. So with that being said, Tom Waddle joins the program of ESPN 1000 fame. You all know him. You all listen to him. And we're going to bring him in because let's just not even delay this, and we'll just get right into it. So that being said, Mr. Waddle, welcome to the program.
Mr. Waddle lives in Tennessee. My dad is Mr. Waddle. I'm Tom. And by the way, your expectation levels are exceedingly low if you are really excited to talk to my dumbass.
Well, the thing is, our two dumbasses are probably even worse. So it's
exactly.
Our bar is already low. I forget what day it is regularly opening this program.
Well, that makes two of us, that's for sure.
Well, thank you for coming on. We really appreciate the time. Yeah. And even though it's infuriating to talk about the Bears most of the time, we're going to do it anyway, and we're going to have some fun. So let's just get right into it. I mean, me and Kevin talked about the 49ers game yesterday, but what were your biggest takeaways? Obviously, Justin Fields, I'm sure, is one of them, but just what were your major takeaways from that game?
You know, I kind of came into the 2021 season with the perspective that, they're really not true for anything. So, we went through a list on our show. It's going to be, the top 15 most important players for the 2021 season. And obviously at the top of my list was Justin Fields. My prediction early on was that he would probably get the start against Detroit after a couple of difficult games against the Rams in the opening night of the season. They'd probably win against the Bengals, and they go to Cleveland against a defense that was really good up front. Their front seven is very good. And then it would be time to turn to Justin. And then at that point, he would become your starting quarterback for the remainder of the year. Now, the timeline probably wasn't exactly correct, but my theory all along was this team wasn't going to be a true contender. So the most important perspective that you can have, or the most important issue to develop this year, would be the bringing along of your rookie quarterback. So with that as the backdrop, look, I understand they lost 33-22. The defense gave up 470 yards and 33 points in 22 minutes. That's not good. But when you zoom out, and again, to reemphasize what I thought was the most important component of the entire season was the development of your rookie quarterback, I thought you saw progress on a number of fronts with Justin. So thought he read the field better, thought the ball came out quicker, thought they protected him better. And I thought for the first time, maybe all season long, he ran the ball with conviction and he was very decisive. So, look, I'm not one for moral victories, but I saw progress with the young quarterback. So to me, we saw progress on the season.
Well, the question I have for you is 22 points enough? Like, is that the standard now offensively? Because, we talk about moral victories, and yes, obviously what we saw from Justin Fields is more a victory, but we had people saying the offense did enough to win that game. Is the standard that low, or what are your thoughts on what else you need to see there for the offense? Because that's way too low for me.
Well, it's lower. It's 3 points lower or 2.5 points lower than what the average is in the National Football League. So, No, I mean, look, you got to keep everything in perspective, or I think you do. Obviously, they're not doing enough on offense. They're averaging 260 yards, and they're dead last in yards per game. They're dead last in passing yards per game, and they're 30th to 31st in points per game. Like, again, I don't want to give the impression that playing this poorly collectively is acceptable. But again, inside the context of what is most important for this season, when you do see progress from your young quarterback, you're encouraged. Now, again, like, I'm not one of these guys that is going over the top and is going to suggest to you, well, what we saw Sunday would lead anyone to believe that he's going to be an all-pro. He's now all of a sudden he's a candidate to be an MVP or even the rookie of the year. No, I mean, look, he's a rookie that's making mistakes, and he's high on some throws. He's inaccurate in some throws. He needs to take some steam off the football at times. Like, there's a long way for him to go, and he's got a pretty below average, to say the least, and to be kind, below average support group, both from a coaching standpoint and from what's inside the huddle. So, no, I don't want to give anybody the impression that 22 points is acceptable, but where we're coming from, progress is what's most important. And on that front, I'm trying to draw a positive out of what was another loss. And I did see progress from the rookie QB.
So is he at where about you'd expect? Like, you said you expect him to start week 4. He started a little earlier than that. Like, as far as what your expectations were with his progress, where's he at?
I was expecting more collectively from the group around him. I mean, I can't deny that. I never would have thought that this group, as challenged as I did believe they were, like, this is a historic low, or at least in the context of the new coaching staff. This has been my beef all along. In 2018, your defense was elite. In 2019, they were very, very good. 2020, they were good enough to be competitive. And early in this year, like, they keep you in ball games. So, look, defensively, they're not where you want them to be. Offensively, they are historically bad. This is as bad as you've seen in the 4 years Matt Nagy's been the coach. With that in mind, he hasn't been protected well. I thought they pushed him down a flight of stairs with a game plan against Cleveland. This is kind of who I thought he would be. I mean, it's very hard to play this position in this league, especially as a rookie, and when you don't have that great support staff. I think what you're seeing now, too, is, look, when he was at Ohio State, he was an elite football player. He's a fantastic – I thought – I'm no quarterback guru, but I thought he was the second best quarterback coming into this draft this past year behind Trevor Lawrence. With that said, the offense at Ohio State was one where he would drop deep. He would sit at 7 steps. He would, look over the defense. He'd hang on to the ball for 4+ seconds, and then his elite speed receivers would find a way to get open in these deep combination routes, and then he'd drop a dime on them. Life's different in the NFL. Like, you have to know that the ball's got to come out quicker. What's open at the NFL level is a significant change from what's open at the collegiate level. So, like, immediately that he's going to be under duress because your offensive line's not great. He's going to see things he hasn't seen before. And now he's having to get used to a quick passing game because the line can't hold up, and he's used to a deep passing game. So, like, you put it all together, and you're really asking a lot. Again, I go back to the game against the Niners, and what you saw was a decisive runner. And when you're as capable of running the football as he is, it's got to be part of your game plan. Saw the ball come out quicker. I saw him be accurate. It's not perfect, but we're making progress. And look, again, it's you're not going to see a finished product in 2021.
Oh,
well, do you think so? So is it a coincidence that Matt Nagy's game away from the team is Justin Fields' best game as a quarterback?
It's funny. I mean, obviously you can connect those dots. I think it's easy. I think we're in a game of let's see who can be as mean-spirited to Matt as humanly possible. And look, these guys are really good guys. I will say this as, a defender of this organization and a proud member of the alumni group. I think Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace are really good guys. I don't think they've been very good at their jobs. Matt was brought here to develop this offense or expand this offense, take it into a new dimension, and to develop quarterbacks. And I don't think we've seen that to this point. So, look, it's challenging. It's difficult. I think we're staring, some significant change in the face at the end of this season. And, is tough. It's a tough go right now for a young quarterback who's trying to develop with not a huge or a very good support staff around him.
Well, you've mentioned the support staff a number of times now, and here's where I get confused because obviously the offensive line is nowhere it needs to be. But I've spoken on the show a number of times that you actually have a very versatile and dynamic offense. When you look at the offensive pieces that you have as far as the weapons around them, you take it away when you lose to David Montgomery, but Jameer Bird had 600 yards last year with the Patriots. I mean, Marquise Goodwin was a factor each week with the 49ers last year. And Allen Robinson is having his least productive year that he's ever had. I just don't find it a coincidence that all of these players regressed because of their talent. There seems to me that scheme is a part of that, and the conversation that a lot of people have, especially when you look, next gen stats, does separation, who leads the league in separation, all that. Allen Robinson's second to last in the league, and people say Allen Robinson doesn't know how to separate anymore. How much of the inability to get playmakers to football is due to their ability to get open versus scheming them open by the coaching staff and by play design?
Well, it's part of it. There's no doubt. And again, to kind of go back and finish my thought from before, look, you have a quarterback who is more comfortable in a longer developing passing game, and now you're forced to have a quick passing game because you can't protect. The Allen Robinson separation conversation has been around for a while. I mean, Allen, if you go back and look at tape from last year and the year before, I think Allen's, look, we can haggle over it. Is he the 13th best receiver in the league? Is he the 15th best receiver in the league? Is he the 17th best receiver in the league? I think Allen Robinson's the number one receiver in this league. Is he DeAndre Hopkins? No. Is he Stephon Diggs? No. There are a lot of guys that are better players than him, but he's also better than a lot of players in the league. Allen Robinson's kind of a big body guy who has good speed, not great speed. And you're going to have to trust that you're going to have to throw him the football in contested situations. He's got a good catch radius, and he's got a good ability to bring the football in contested situations. I was never a huge fan of Mitch Trubisky for a lot of reasons, but Mitch trusted Allen to come down with the football in contested situations. That's just the nature of the beast with him. He doesn't have the ability speed-wise to separate himself from other people. But a young quarterback's got to learn to throw the ball into a tight window and just trust that Allen's going to come down with the football. If you combine Allen's catches and yardage over the last 2 years, I don't think there's 5 guys in the league that have had more yards and more catches than Allen Robinson. And he's not running free all the time. So it's something that a young quarterback has to learn. I'm going to be honest, I don't have a great feel for what their route concepts are at times. I really don't. I think Darnell Mooney does the best job at creating separation. It's because a couple of things. He's not a perfect receiver, but I think he's got a little shake in his route running, and I think he's got that extra gear. He's never going to be a 1 because he doesn't have the size, but he finds himself a little more space, which then in the mind of a young quarterback means he's more open, he's more dependable. I'm going to throw the ball there. So, look, I think your tight end's sticky too. And I mean, Cole Kmet, I played with his dad, Frank. I love him as a guy. He needs to create more separation as well. There are a lot of issues inside this offense that, you could spend days circling things and never coming to the end of all of them.
Yeah, well, so the reason why Darnell Mooney, I think, gets a lot of separation, he's 5th in the league in cushion. So the distance between him and the defender is already 7 yards at the line of scrimmage. Right. He doesn't have to do much to have separation in the route. But you talk about the confidence, because Justin Fields leads the league in aggressiveness. Like, he's throwing into tight windows. He's not afraid to do it. But the point you mentioned, he's afraid to do it to Allen Robinson. Yes. How much of that do you chalk up to the fact that he didn't have the chemistry and rapport with Allen Robinson because of their lack of reps in training camp?
Yeah,
Does it really matter? Does it really matter?
I got into this fight with Sylvie the other day. Look, obviously, the more you work with someone, the more continuity you're going to build. They decided that they were going to start the season week 1 with Andy Dalton. Obviously, Andy's going to get the number 1 reps because you're getting ready for the season. Is that going to limit the work that you're going to have with Justin Fields and Allen Robinson? Yes, it is. I'm not denying that that's an issue. Where I believe it becomes a tired narrative is these guys have been working together in practice for 7 weeks. For example, Zach Ertz joined the Cardinals a week and a half ago, and Zach Ertz has what in 2 weeks? 7 catches for 100-something yards and at least a touchdown or 2. Like, again, that's a more well-oiled machine in Arizona than what we have here. Chemistry can be built in a shorter period of time. I think it's a convenient excuse because Allen is frustrated with what's going on. The entire offense is frustrated. Would it be better right now if they'd worked more during training camp? Of course. But this ain't high school football. Like, if you're a professional and Allen's a top 15 receiver, if you can't build some chemistry, in my opinion, in 7 weeks, I'm not so sure I'm buying that. I think that becomes a tired art. I think this is a small amount of gas on a roaring fire that already exists because your offense is dead last.
So I said this to Kevin a couple weeks ago, that eventually the narrative of, the chemistry and, Justin Fields wasn't getting the starts in training camp to you. So it sounds like that argument has run its course. You can't use it.
For me, it has. Look, yeah. I mean,
I agree with you.
Yeah, I had the perspective at the start of the season. These guys weren't competing for anything. So if Justin Fields would have started week 1, I'd been fine with that. Mm-hmm. I'm all for. I wasn't one of these guys that was pounding the table either way because I didn't think they were true contenders. I think Justin can develop nicely whether he starts 14 games or 17 games. Come on, I mean, like, you can develop. And once you've been working with a guy for 6 or 7 weeks, why isn't this the same complaint we have with Darnell Mooney? Why is Darnell Mooney's cohesiveness with the quarterback differently? Mm-hmm. And to go back to your point, Kevin, too, is, yeah, there is space there because a team is going to respect the deep threat that Darnell Mooney is, maybe more than Allen. And you're also going to probably have a safety rolled on top of Allen if, in fact, your belief is that your young quarterback is going to go to him. There aren't a whole lot of guys that scare the crap out of you in this offense coming out of the huddle. So as a defensive coordinator, look, what Todd Bowles did was he gave you different looks. He would show you 5 and rush 4. He'd show you 4 and rush 6. He'd have guys mugging in the A gap, linebackers, giving the young quarterback, something that he hadn't seen before, and he'd play zone behind it. So, like, I don't know. I mean, we can lean on a number of these issues and say, hey, this is the reason why, or, Sylvia and I were yelling at each other. I'm like, look, in my list of things that bother me, way down that list is Allen Robinson didn't get the reps in training camp, and now that's why they don't have any continuity. I mean, there are bigger fish to fry than that.
So what's your biggest fish to fry in that scenario? What's your biggest thing with this team then?
I don't think that. Well, there's look,
there are a lot. There's a number of them.
Yeah, it starts with me that their roster doesn't stack up with others. They can't.
Really?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, look, I'm not going to sit here and Marquise Goodwin fills a role. Damiere Byrd fills a role. Those guys aren't difference makers. Your offensive line, you put on the tape and you'll see they do create space in the running game. I mean, they do a nice job of creating space. Their pass, there was the second play of the game against the Bucs. You had an 8-man protection. Okay. So you got the 8 guys, including your back. You've got your quarterback. You're in a 2-man route. Justin Fields got sacked in 2.3 seconds because your rookie running back didn't recognize the blitz, and your 39-year-old future Hall of Fame left tackle got beat to the inside. Like, you can't play football when you're keeping 8 in to block a route and your quarterback's getting sacked in 2.5 seconds. So your protection isn't there. Your quarterback is playing in a quick passing offense out of necessity. He's not used to that. He's learning the speed of the game. He's learning what an open route and an open window is at this level. You don't have guys that are creating, significant separation. And you've got a scheme where the coach has shown you over the course of 3+ years that he's not willing to make the necessary adjustments. And look, you've got to develop an offense around what you have. You can't ask what you have to just fit into your offense. Mm-hmm. Like, if you made me run in this offense going back in the day, I would have failed more miserably than I did in my own offense. Like, I could get away from guys in 10 yards. Once I got to 12 yards, shit got real, and guys were able to just, lock me up. That's why you had to help me out with rub routes, pick routes. You you have to develop your scheme around the talent that you have. And I thought the biggest indictment of Matt Nagy was the offense. The design of the offense for Mitchell Trubisky is the easiest offense in the world to design. You were limited with what you could ask him to do. You cut the field in half. You run the football. You ask him to see it. You ask him to throw it. And what Matt did for 3.5 years was he put Mitch in or 2.5 years was he put Mitch in a situation to try to do things Mitch wasn't capable of doing. Like I will hold Mitch accountable for not being a guy I don't think who could take an offense to the next level. By the same token, I thought Matt did a miserable job getting the most out of Mitch. It took them to the 5 games left in the season before they finally put an offense in place that fit what their offensive, talent was. So, again, I made the statement earlier that you go back and look at the Cleveland tape. You knew what you were facing. You were facing a great front seven that had played poorly in the first 2 weeks. They were poised for a game. You had a rookie quarterback, and you came out in 5-man protection. Come on. Like, you can't do it. So, like, they get wise, but they get wise late. So, again, to make a long story short, I got an offensive line that can't protect. I got an offensive coordinator that wants to fit you into his scheme as opposed to fitting his scheme around what you do well. And I got a rookie quarterback. I mean, it's not a formula for success.
They get wise, but they get wise late. It seems like the Bears, even in 2018, they start to get hot at the end of the year. Maybe they do it again this year. But the question I have is we look forward to Monday in Pittsburgh. And you saw, I talked about, I don't know if having a different perspective for Matt Nagy has, watching the game on TV, on his couch, taking notes. I don't know if anything clicks for him from that perspective. You'd wish it doesn't, because if that's what it takes to be watching the game on TV from your couch to have things click, then that's an issue. But you kind of saw, I wouldn't say a completely different identity, but maybe you understood what worked. And you said, okay, I've always said Justin Fields is in the echelon just below Lamar Jackson when it comes to running ability. And if you get 175 passing yards and 100 rushing yards out of him, that's an offense that could maybe work. Do they now look at last week's game, understand that, and go forward, say, we are going to design more QB runs. We're going to adopt more of the Ravens type deal, because quite frankly, the rushing offense is good. Their rushing statistics are top 10 in the NFL. David Montgomery was the top 3 running back in the league before getting injured. Khalil Herbert was top 3 running back before last week, just behind Derrick Henry and Jonathan Taylor. Do they take anything from last week and, going forward to Pitt and forward, kind of change the identity of the offense?
Yeah, well, I think they should do a lot of what they tried to do. And I agree with you. The one thing that I saw different in their running game was Justin Fields was more decisive when he got on the edge. Mm-hmm. In the past, I think what you've seen him, he's kind of waffled. Do I want to run? Do I want to throw? Yeah. Do I want to run? Do I want to throw? And you're kind of caught in halfway. And I would say, looking at the tape, he decided if it wasn't a complete wide open gimme throw, I'm tucking and running. And it's got to be a part of their offense now, because it's they're limited in what they can do. Like, look, I don't think any of us are ever going to confuse him with Lamar Jackson. Lamar's just got wiggle that Justin doesn't. Justin's
he's below him. Yeah.
Yeah. Lamar's just he's a different guy with regard to that. And Justin comes from an environment like at Ohio State. Justin wasn't a running quarterback. Justin was a guy who played well from the pocket and ran when he had to, because he's such a great athlete. Here's the difference that I see. Like, what the 49ers were trying to do is they were crashing their ends every single play. Bosa was flipped over to a side he wasn't used to playing. They were trying to match him up with Larry Borum, who did a nice job. And they were crashing their ends every play to try to stop the Bears running game. What they were doing was they were giving Justin a release to the outside, and Justin made him pay. If you go back and look at how other teams have defended them, you haven't seen that commitment to crashing down from the ends. I don't believe that Mike Tomlin, as accomplished of a coach as he is, and TJ Watt and Cam Hayward, I don't think you'll see them play the same defense, because they'll look at that film and they'll adjust. They'll see that if you crash your ends and you give Justin the ability to break contain on the edge, he's going to make you pay. And he showed for the first time the willingness and the decisiveness to tuck and run and make a a decision that I'm going to take the 15 yards running and maybe not try to take the 6-yard pass. And so what I think you'll see, I mean, TJ Watt is the best difference-making defender in the league right now, where he can get to you and he can change a game, probably, to a greater degree than anyone else. And look, they played Myles Garrett. He's a great player. I think TJ Watt can do some different things. I think what you're going to see them do is try to contain things more up the edge or on the edge and force Justin not to get on the perimeter, but to go through the tackles and go. And that'll change the way that the offense is going to have to accomplish things. So I want to see the commitment to the quarterback running the ball. At the end of the day, though, guys, in this league, you're going to have to play the position from the pocket. Even Lamar has to play it from the pocket at times. It's what Russell Wilson does that makes him such a special player. Russ can get out on the edge, but Russ can beat you from anywhere on the field. I think that look, it's just my opinion. I think Mike Tomlin and the Steelers are going to try to force to keep Justin pinned in more than what the 49ers did. And we'll see if they can actually find some running lanes between the tackles or inside more so than getting to the edge.
Well, I was going to say, with the state of the offensive line, we've established that especially at left tackle, you kind of have a subpar group. That's going to be a problem, right? I mean, you're going to have issues.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you think you're going to drop back and throw it 40 times and just rely on, on them securing a pocket, I think you're going to be sadly disappointed. It's just hard to do that. And I don't think they need to do that right now. Run the football, run play action. Do get him on the edge. And it won't work sometimes, but keep trying to do it. Get the ball out quick. I mean, there are certain things you can do as an offensive coordinator to help your young quarterback, but then you also your young quarterback has to grow and that's where, again, I think there's two things about Justin Fields that I'm excited about. The one is that he's got a very short memory and a very thick skin. And by that, I mean, there are a lot of quarterbacks that would have come out of that Cleveland game and been scarred for a long period of time. He showed
what everyone was worried about.
Yeah. And look, it was fortunate for them. They played the Lions after the Browns, but you saw no signs of him having any residual impact from absolutely being destroyed. And go back to the Tampa Bay game. He turned it over 5 times. It's not all on him, but he had 5 turnovers. There's a lot of young quarterbacks that wouldn't have been something that he could have gotten out of his head. What did we see? We saw Sunday against the 49ers, the game that I thought he made the most progress. So this kid is resilient. He doesn't get down on himself in any way, shape, or form. He can bounce back. And as I said, I think what we saw this past week is his ability to kind of adapt and grow quickly. And he's going to have to learn that the ball's going to have to come out quick. He's going to have to make some anticipatory throws. And I think you see progress there. So that, to me, is what's most important.
And I think if they want to win on Monday, first of all, I mean, this game is going to be ugly, and I apologize to all the NFL fans in the world. There's a reason Eli Manning and Peyton Manning are taking a, quote, bye week on Monday, because they don't want to have to sit here and try to entertain guests throughout the course of a slugfest 15-13 football game they're probably going to see. But if they want to win, I mean, I think the Bears can win this game. I think that's a fair assumption to make. To me, the biggest issue that I've had of recent is what they do in the red zone, and specifically what they designed. I was looking at the play that they ran to Cole Kmet where Fred Warner deflected it. It was 5 wide empty. 4 of them were go routes, and then it was an in route to Cole Kmet. Why? A question I have is if you're the coach, you're going into that situation. You have 4 plays. Let's say you have 4 plays inside the 10. Assuming you go for it on 4th down. What are you running? Because for me, I'm taking at least 1 slant route to Allen Robinson. I'm taking a 1-on-1 to Jimmy Graham. What are you doing in the red zone there, and what do you expect him to do on Monday? And then we'll let you get out of here.
No, I mean, I think it's a good point. I think it comes down to scheme again. And, that play is also a good example of where the young quarterback will make some improvement. Like, you got to throw that ball. Most touchdowns, most throws in general are contested throws because the guys on the other side of the field, they get paid and they're really good. That ball's got to be closer into Cole Kmet's body, and you got to take a little zip off of it. You can't throw it that hard. Again, it's something that you'll learn the longer you play. I don't like spreading guys out at the goal line. I like bunching guys together and giving them space. It's already hard to work in the red zone because you're limited vertically with the back of the end zone. So why are you spreading guys out and now limiting what you can do, horizontally as well? Like, give me a set where I got a tight end and I got Wendell Davis next to me, and Wendell can go to the corner and I can pick my guy off of his guy, or he can pick his guy off of my guy. And at the end of the day, you find yourself a little bit of a seam. Unless you've got guys that you trust can win one-on-one battles. And as I said, Fred Warner's arguably the best middle linebacker in the league. Cole Kmet's a second-year player, hasn't proven that he can create the separation that's necessary. So why is that the route that you're leaning on? I mean, I'm with you. It's stuff that I look at and I question whether or not you're putting guys in. But look, this is the deal. He's bringing this offense from Kansas City, and the quarterback who's throwing the football is throwing it to guys that we don't have. Travis Kelce makes that move, creates a little bit of separation, and Patrick Mahomes throws it in a spot where it's still inside his body, and he makes the catch. We don't have those guys. So, like, tailor your offense to what you do have, and you see some of it now. You've seen them, with Bill Lazor. I think you saw this past week. I think you saw a commitment to more quarterback runs, which is important.
Yes,
you saw them do some things where the ball is going to come out quick. You create some looks where, as you mentioned, Darnell Mooney's got some soft coverage. Like, help me. Like, you got to help me. Like, you just got to help me. Help me. I would come to the sideline and look to them and say, you know what my limitations are? Help me. Like,
right.
Help me help you.
Guy. I got Darrell Green on me. Once I get to 12 yards, Darrell Green owns me. He owns me from 0 to 12 yards anyway, but I at least got a chance in the first 3 or 4 yards. Help me get away from Darrell Green. I don't see a lot of that. So,
all right.
Frustrating.
No, and so before we let you go, what's your game prediction? You got one yet? Have you gotten that far yet?
Well, here's the deal. Like, I got burned picking the Bears over the 49ers because I started picking games based on the opponent. Yeah. And I looked at the 49ers and, okay, look, they really don't threaten me. You got one receiver really I'm worried about, Deebo Samuel, the rookie running back Mitchell.
Really? Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't scare you is what you're saying?
I like Jimmy more than most, but that's not a matchup that their defense, you're missing 2 of your interior defensive linemen. You're missing Tart, your safety. Like, I predicted the Bears would win that game 20-17. You're at home. You should be able to get Jimmy off his spot, affect him, and maybe he'll throw one to you. So I picked that game. I picked the Bears not just to cover, but the Bears to win the game, not because of the Bears, but because of the opponent. Well, I'm done with that crap. So now I'm not picking the game based on the opponent. I'm picking the game based on our team. Look, I got Mike Tomlin. I got TJ Watt. I got Cam Hayward. I mean, I got guys that I think match up better against our guys than our guys match up them. So, look, it'll be a pillow fight. It'll be one of those games that is 27. I just don't think you go to Pittsburgh on Monday night and beat Mike Tomlin. I mean, is it impossible to do? No. But if you make me, I'm not going to make the mistake this week I made last week and pick the Bears to beat an opponent because I didn't trust the opponent. This is more about the Bears going forward. And I don't have the faith in them that maybe some people want me to have.
I think a lot of people want to have faith, but it's a little lacking right now, given the state of the union, we'll call it. But
so listen, it burns me to say that because I love this team, but it's also my job to be honest about them. Like, I'm not taking pot shots at anybody. I'm not calling anybody a loser or lazy or. It's just a matter of what you see. I mean, Ryan's been in that spot for 7 years now, and the roster doesn't match up. The coach has been there for now going on his 4th year, and we're still at the bottom of the barrel statistically in important stats. So tough spot to be in for sure.
No, it is. And we get the joy of watching it. These make your eyes bleed games. But Tom, thank you so much for your time, man. We appreciate it.
You got it, guys. I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thanks. Take it easy.
Thanks, Tom.
Tom Waddle, everybody. Man, Bears Nation podcast heater right now.
On a roll.
I mean, this game is just going to be such a make your eyes bleed game. Like, this is going to be such a brutal game to watch.
Bears lose 3-2, maybe. A safety and a field goal is all we get on Monday night. I mean, I think it's possible. 3-2. Would that be scoregami?
I imagine it would have to be.
I don't know, man. I mean, when did they start recording scoregami? Did they include all games since the inception of football?
I don't know. But that was
you're telling me there was no 3-2 in the 1940s? Come on.
Did they even have safeties though? Then that's
probably not. It's since the inception of the safety is the question. There's some listener out there who's got to do the research for us, and if you do, email us. Comment
section is awfully quiet tonight. So if somebody
the comment section goes dark when we have guests, that's what I've noticed because they like making fun of me and you. But they don't want to make fun of a man as established as Tom Waddle or Adam Amin or anybody with actual credibility about anything. Versus
that's why we got to get Shane back then.
Yeah, we get Shane back, and the comments will be because that. Yeah, I mean, and that'll happen. We'll get that back, and it'll be off the rails as it usually is with him. But I'm not expecting a lot on. I mean, so here's the thing about. Let's talk about this game a little bit. I know we talked about a whole lot of different things with Tom. What did you have something to say?
No, I mean talking about this game as usual. It is Bears Nation podcast.
Well, we were talking about a whole lot of different things with Tom. We were covering all the bases.
We got to the game at the end there.
Finally, we did.
What do you mean finally? That was like the last 15, 20 minutes.
I don't know what I'm saying. All right, we
good.
got
That's
to it.
really
That's
good considering you're on a live show, with guests like Tom Waddle, and you don't know what you're saying. That's really good.
Well, see, I know what I'm saying when the guest comes on. When he leaves, it's like, all right. Now
so you just
get back to our typical.
The old brain.
Says the guy who forgets the date every single week.
So does Tom Waddle, so I don't need to deal with
Okay, true. Well, Tom Waddle's a little bit older than you are, my friend.
Whoa.
So I think we have to take that into factor. Look, the Steelers haven't scored 30 points all year, right? I mean, and neither have the Bears, if I'm correct. I mean, what was the highest they scored? 24
this year?
Or did they? Yeah, 24. So look, the weird thing about the Steelers is they're similar to the Bears, where and what I mean by that is they can actually go out there and beat any team any given day, and I think the Bears can do that. Honestly, like they've beaten the Bengals, who just lost to the Jets. They've beaten the Raiders. Like they can pull off good victories. The Steelers beat the Bills week 1, and week 1 sometimes is always an anomaly, but this is still a team with a really good defense that can win any time they go out and play, but also have the ability to just fall apart and lose really badly, and that's evident by the fact that all of their wins are by 1 score. And all of their losses are by 2 scores. So they're either winning by a very close margin or not getting blown out, but losing, by at least a score, by 2 scores. So that's why this game
actually it's kind of some of their losing margin. I mean, they lost 26-17, lost by 9 to the Raiders.
Lost by 9. That's
lost by 14 to the Bengals, lost by 10 to the Packers. So actually it's only the 1.
Yeah, so
they beat
9
the Broncos by 8 though. That was kind of weird.
Yeah,
anyway,
that's still technically 1 score. Yeah. But 8, so this is like I want to get excited, man.
Here's the thing. So here's my thing with the Steelers. Man. So I mean, Tom brought up a bunch of really good points as far as the matchups being there, but also like the Mike Tomlin effect here is huge. I mean, the disparity in your head coach and their head coach is insane. Like probably one of the biggest that we've seen in the Matt Nagy era, I would venture to say. Like I can't remember everyone off the top of my head, but like
he's played just about everybody. I mean,
it's right, but it's still like that disparity is enormous, and it's the biggest you faced this year. I don't think right. Probably, I would say it's the biggest you faced all year because people are all out on Shanahan. It seems like now. So
McVay maybe, but
yeah, true. Okay. That's a good point.
But Tomlin's just with his experience.
Regardless. Well, and I mean, he's won a Super Bowl, so it's like
multiple, yeah.
It's scary. And the Steelers, though, you made a comparison to the Bears. So you said they're a similar team, which I don't completely disagree with. The problem is the Steelers are already kind of over their hump. They had their losing streak already. They lost 3 in a row in the middle of the season already. They lost, they won week 1, like you said, they beat the Bills, but then they lost to the Raiders, the Bengals, and the Packers. And 2 of those games were at home. And they came out and they beat the Broncos, Seahawks, and Browns. And now they're coming into this game with the chance to extend it to a 4-game winning streak. Bears obviously in the middle of their 3-game losing streak. So like the Steelers are on the up right now while the Bears are on their down. Like it's not a great spot to be going back. I mean, to use Tom Waddle's analogy again, the matchups, not analogy, but his point, the matchups again, that matchup, even the way your schedule is right now and the way your team is trending right now is not in your favor either. It's brutal.
It is brutal, but and that's where it's like maybe he's right, and maybe I should start thinking this way as well. As too many times have I spoken about, the Bears are riding the hot streak, right?
That's
doesn't matter.
His point about we got to start looking at it from where the Bears are. That kind of was like that made something like a light bulb almost. That's something we do a lot on this show.
But you want to know why? You want to know why the light bulb went off for you? And I think this is very evident. And this is my line of thinking always is because like he's right where when you talk about some of the talent, specifically, I think when he was talking about talent being below what other teams have, I think he was specifically referencing the offensive line because when he went in depth on that, he started to talk about
that was his first comparison.
That was the first thing because like Marquise Goodwin and Damiere Byrd are filler guys, and they're not the best, but you've seen teams do more with less. So like I'm not going to sit here and say the talent of the Bears playmakers.
His point was being that because those were the ones we were referencing, but Justin Fields isn't a game changer yet. David Montgomery, we love him, but he's not a game changer. Like I think that was Tom Waddle's point is that you have these guys, but right now they're just filler guys. You don't have anyone that takes them to the next level. You don't have anyone that brings you, like you bring DeAndre Hopkins to this team, for example. DeAndre Hopkins takes Justin Fields to another level. Devontae Adams brings Justin Fields' play to another level because he's a game changer. He's what's the word I'm looking for? He transcends like those normal baseline guys like Damiere Byrd and Marquise Goodwin, who are just baseline guys. Allen Robinson has been just a baseline guy. Like he doesn't bring anything extra that helps you out that much. I think that is more of what the point was.
And there's validity to that for sure. But now if you look at the matchup, I mean, the Steelers don't have a guy like that. I mean, at the current moment, and Najee Harris is good, but he's not that.
They have TJ Watt,
I'm talking offensive side of the ball.
Okay, yeah, but whole team.
I mean, defensive side of the ball, the Bears got plenty of those players. They got Roquan Smith and Khalil Mack, and Robert Quinn has played that way this year.
This week.
Is he for sure out?
I'm looking at this game as if he's not going to play.
That's terrifying. He wasn't put on IR, so I don't believe he was put on IR. So I don't think it's.
And we don't have an injury report until tomorrow.
For some reason, that man I think he's got supernatural healing ability for the most part. I mean, every week he's on the injury report. It's a shocker when he's out because 90% of the time he shows up as do not practice for the first 4 days and somehow plays on Sunday.
Well,
maybe the extra day. So. The extra day is Monday, so he's going to get an extra day of rest, and that'll be the difference. But what I'm trying to say is that. This is a game. This is a game that you can win with these pieces, and
absolutely.
Going up against the Buccaneers, no, but on Monday night against the Pittsburgh Steelers, you can win with what you have. I forgot what my initial point was going to be.
Well, however, but back to Waddle's point is we have to look at this from the state of the Bears, right? because we did that with the Niners too. We said, okay, you can win this game with the pieces you have, and then you lost by 11.
That was the point. So you look at it and say the Bears, and the mistake that I make, the mistake that most people make too, and the reason why this season sucks and last season sucks is because, and this goes back to the pieces, everything is because they're capable of more. You can no matter where you think the Bears are from a playmaking standpoint on offense and from a personnel standpoint rather on offense or defense, they're more capable of what they've shown this year. That is a simple fact. That's a fact. The roster is built to be better than what they are. The defense is built to be better what they've been. So you pick these games week after week, thinking that they're going to be what you expect them to be. Every week, I think, although they lost, there's a chance that they could just come out on Sunday as what they're supposed to be because they've done that in the past. If they hadn't done that in the past, I wouldn't think that way. But it's literally you're playing roulette every week. Is this the week they're going to have a Raiders-Bengals type game where they look like a complete team? Or is this the week where they have a Rams-Buccaneers type game? You really don't know. Some of it, and that's why Jake, and that's why Waddle says this, is it's not always based off the opponent. Yeah, when you have a good opponent playing you, you are you can easily pick against the Bears. But when you look at like a
Very
Bengals
easily.
a Bengals or a Raiders, where you don't really know, you still don't really know about either of those two teams, or even look at bad teams. Sometimes the Bears don't perform well against bad teams. You're literally playing roulette. So going into this week, it's like I always want to pick because I always want to pick based off of what I feel like they are capable of, not what they have shown me in the past, because it's so variable. Do you know what I'm talking about? And I think that's why people have, it's like, Jake, you're the betting guy. Why do people never bet on the Atlanta Falcons? It's the same exact thing. The Atlanta Falcons but some weeks they win. Some weeks they win like 35-3 against good teams, and they beat the Buccaneers on it and things like that. Like they're just like that in that where sometimes and this happens in the NFL. Yes, any given Sunday, any team can win on Sunday, but with the team and the personnel that they have, I do feel like they can at least be in the game and have a chance to win. And I pick based off of my expectations and based off of what I think they are capable of. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm wrong. I'm wrong for thinking that way, and I feel stupid for thinking that way, but that's why I do it.
Also, I just want to circle you said the Falcons beat the Bucks, but you like
not this year. I think
I was gonna say
year.
I was like, what are you talking about,
I'm
dude?
pretty sure they beat them last year. I'll fact check me on that. I said a team like the Bucks. I don't know if they actually beat the Bucks last year.
Because they got their doors beat off them this year.
Not this
no, I mean it's just I would love to look at this Steelers team and say, okay, this is a beatable team. Okay, this is a team that has lost some gross games. Okay, this is a team that sometimes they come out flat. The problem is, and I keep going back to this point that Waddle made because I thought it was really good, you have to start looking at like the Bears. Yes, we know the Bears can come out like they did against the Bengals or the Raiders, but they haven't more often than not, especially since the start of last year. More often than not, they will come out flat and they will come out uninspired or they will come out and just get their teeth kicked in because for whatever reason, it's just not working. Yeah, sometimes they pull out those miracle games like the Raiders and they were ready to play and wire to wire, they were a good team. But we've seen that, and we could probably count it on less than maybe even one hand, the amount of times we've seen that over the last season and a half. Like it's just, we have to start being more realistic about this team. And I know we've tried to do that on the show multiple times. So, I mean,
we do what we can,
but obviously you want to be positive too, but I mean, we're going to see the Nagy effect in full blown Nagy effect this week. Like there's going to be some, because I don't think the 49ers and the Steelers are that far apart. Like I don't know if that's taking, but
they're very similar too.
I think they're similar-ish teams where let's put it this way. I don't think you're going from Tampa Bay to San Francisco. I don't think you're going from the Rams to the Bengals. I think they're close enough where you can make comparisons where you can see if the Bears come out flat or they come out and the offense stalls immediately and Justin Fields has a bad game, like people are going to say that's the Nagy effect. And I mean, I don't know how fair that is anymore. I'm so confused because Waddle made some really good points about how you have to objectively look at this, and it's not all Nagy because whatever, but it's just going to be very interesting. And I think, Matt Nagy and his ego, he's going to want to out coach Tomlin, and I could see Matt Nagy trying to get really cute with this game, and that's how you lose it.
Cute as in what? Like
as
trick
in
plays and things like that.
Trick plays are just trying to do too much, as opposed to, like Waddle said, looking at what worked last week and leaning into it. Like I could see Matt Nagy go, okay, I got to make an impression on Hall of Fame coach Mike Tomlin.
Try to outsmart him. Yeah, classic
try to be the smartest guy in the room when he's clearly not, and try to prove that he's the smartest guy in the room when he's clearly not. I think that's a very real fear for me as to how you can lose this game, because Matt Nagy tries to get too cute and tries to stroke his ego by trying to outcoach Mike Tomlin.
I think that's very real as well. I mean, we've seen that in the past. It's just that disparity is evident on Sundays, and him trying to overcome that is evident. So I don't think the effect is as great as what people may believe, honestly. And Waddle alluded to that too. Is like you can connect the dots in areas, but it's not a complete correlation between Justin Fields having his best rushing day on Sunday, best performance as a rookie, and Matt Nagy being out. Like there are certain areas, and we talked about this on the 49ers recap, there are certain areas that you can chalk up to that, whether it be the confidence for Justin Fields to run and the decisiveness and his willingness to do that on fourth down in the red zone. But as far as the way they actually come out as a team, I don't think that's going to change as much. And because again, and what I mean by that is it's about the team as a whole, because you can break down every single little factor and every single little X and O and say, oh, well, how does the loss or the absence of Matt Nagy affect that? Look at how they came out as a team. They didn't come out with any different energy. They didn't come out with any different sort of fire. They came out flat as usual. They didn't make adjustments after halftime. This is something that it's a whole staff issue, I think. Like, if there were really some sort of evidence to believe that the absence of Matt Nagy changed something with this team, you would have seen a different team. You would have seen a different energy. You would have seen a different kind of fire coming out of the game and coming out of halftime. And you saw the same old thing that we've seen under the 4 years under Matt Nagy. So that's why, I don't think anything changed, and it's going to be the same old thing you're going to see on Monday, the same old Matt Nagy, the same old coming out flat, the same old no adjustments. But one thing we have some news too to talk about real quick as we kind of wrap up the show here. Aaron Rodgers, we'll get to that in a second.
We're wrapping up because Kevin's leaning back in his chair holding his mic. The classic Kevin Lapka wrap up.
The classic move.
The classic Kevin Lapka. Okay, it's the last 7-8 minutes of the show.
Exactly. That's how you know. It's just the ending. It's become a thing now, and I have to do it. I was really conflicted. I was very, very conflicted during the trade deadline because and I'm still very conflicted. Number one, everyone thought the Bears were going to be sellers, but Ryan Pace a few days ago said the Bears would be aggressive. So no one really knew what was going to happen, and nothing happened. Okay, nothing at all happened really across the NFL. It was one of the, I think, less interesting trade deadlines of all time. But now there's a guy who's having some issues in Cleveland, and he might become available. And there are people wondering if OBJ, who will likely be cut by the Browns very soon or waived, be a Chicago Bear. And the greater question that I have, here's the greater question that I have. I don't think it's as much about, Odell Beckham Jr. as it is anyone, is I don't like, as good as he is I don't feel confident. Jake, Odell Beckham Jr. is a talented player. His situation.
Okay, he's talented. That does not make him good.
I think he's good. If we're drawing a line in the sand, and on one side of it is good and the other side is bad, I'm going on the side that is good. Okay, you can maybe make the case he's average. I still think he's good. I think he's in a bad situation in Cleveland and with a bad rapport with the quarterback. I think that's the main issue because Kevin Stefanski's a great offensive
coordinator.
Going to
Cleveland was supposed to fix his career.
Yeah, well,
that was supposed to be what made him good. Going to Cleveland.
I know. But Baker Mayfield's issues, I don't know. Anyway, the thing that, because obviously, Jake, what happens with Bears fans? Every time a guy was on the waiver wire, the tweets are firing. Pick him up, boom, boom, boom. I don't care if it's a 40-year-old drunken, guy who just got out of retirement or whoever it may be. I wasn't alluding to a specific person there. I'm just saying no matter who it is, no matter who it is, the Bears fans are gonna ask
Jason
the question.
Peters is never coming on this show. Good God!
I wasn't alluding to Jason Peters.
It sure sounded like it.
First of all, Jason Peters is 39 and he's not drunken. I was talking about an extreme of no matter who it is, how bad that player or good that player may be. Bears fans are gonna ask the question of whether that player should be a Chicago Bear. That's what we do with this fan base. But you bring.
The fact you paused, like you knew where you were going, and you still you heard it because I saw you go for it, and then you heard it and you stopped for a second, and then you just said "Screw it, I'm in too deep," and you kept going.
I didn't know that you thought I was alluding to Jason Peters. Now I feel bad. I wasn't.
You knew you were.
I wasn't. I was not alluding to Jason Peters.
It was accidental.
He's not a drunk and he's not 40.
It was accidental, but you still knew because you paused. You're like, "Oh, this is way too close to where."
For a sec, I realized after I was like, wait, that might be a little bit too close of an actual player on the team who went through that situation. It took me a second. So I realized it too late, but that's beyond the point. I did not intend that to be about Jason Peters. I love Jason Peters. That man's great. And now Jake's doing it. Now Jake's sitting back in the chair with the mic, and I'll do it too. But anyway, OBJ, the thing that I'm worried about is I don't care if it's OBJ. I don't care if it's Devontae. Well, maybe I care if it's Devontae Adams. Anybody outside of Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, and Tyreek Hill, who is coming over here and producing in the offense? You know what I mean? That's why I don't know, Jake. Are they? I don't know because of the way this offense is built and and I'm using this based off the evidence I have from Allen Robinson and Justin Fields. I don't know if bringing in I mean, I would want them. Let me just make this clear. If OBJ became available on waivers and he dropped to the point where you were able to pick him up, I would do it immediately. But I would have part of me that's skeptical that you're able to do anything with him because you aren't able to do anything with the other weapons that you have on offense.
Agreed.
Is that valid? I mean, I think that's valid.
I think that's completely valid. That was, if you hadn't said that, I would have said it to you. Like I would have said, what faith do you have? And I mean, I guess we could say this to, the people watching or listening. Why would you want OBJ here when you can't even make use of your second-year tight end or Allen Robinson or Jimmy Graham for that matter? Like you can't make use of half the guys on your offense. What makes you think you like if Odell Beckham Jr. is frustrated now? Bring him to Chicago. He'll be kicking and screaming to go back to Cleveland.
Right. You're probably not wrong.
I mean, I don't like. Are there? There can't be many like if you're an offensive player, let's say, let's say you're Odell Beckham Jr. Like, what places are there that you don't want to go to? Like, less than Chicago that you want to go to? The Giants, because obviously he doesn't want to go there.
The Texans.
The Texans,
the Jets, probably still, unless Mike White changes the landscape of the New York Jets.
Okay, I'll throw the Jets in there.
I don't know.
I know people are going to say Detroit, but like Dan Campbell's actually like, I think he's a good motivator. Like I think he could convince someone to want to come play for him. And Jared Goff, like Jared Goff's going to throw it to you.
And Quez Watkins has more receiving yards than Allen Robinson.
Yep.
So
are we at 3? Is that the final tally?
I mean, Jets, Texans,
is three
Lions.
the final?
I'm running through the teams. I can't really think of anybody else.
Jacksonville.
Even then, yeah, probably Jack.
Is Jacksonville more desirable than Chicago right now?
No. No, it's not. Well, let's make this clear too. You are evaluating this like as if there were going to be something happening in the midst of the season. This changes immediately once free agency hits and once the coach gets fired. With a new head coach, with Justin Fields, it becomes one of the more attractive locations because Chicago is always going to be an attractive spot because of its market. You have a rookie quarterback or you're going to have a young quarterback who's got a whole lot of talent, a new head coach. It will be arguably the most attractive place in free agency. But right now, yes, it's in that bottom tier. The thing is, though, and why it's contradicting, why I'm confused is because Waddle comes on the show and says, well, you don't have the piece, you don't have everything. And I think OBJ is a player that elevates your personnel. Like if you were to grade it on Madden, if your offense would probably go from like an 82 personnel wise to like an 83 or an 84. You get elevated by bringing in Odell Beckham Jr. So then it's like, do you take the piece because he elevates you from a personnel standpoint, or do you look at it like, well, you can't make use of Demir Bird, Marquise Goodwin, and Allen Robinson. Why aren't you not going to make use of OBJ? It's a conflicting spot where you don't know what to do because it seems like a lose-lose scenario.
Yeah.
Because you feel like you're not good enough with your personnel, but you feel like if you do bring a guy who you think is good enough, he's not going to produce. So what do you're right. There's nothing you could do that satisfies anybody. So and Jake, this is, and people are going to ask why we're talking about this so much. This is a very real scenario. Odell Beckham Jr. is very likely to get cut or waived. I mean, he was excused from practice. The agent.
Well, we got to do predictions because we got a minute. So wrap it up.
Okay. Well, all I'm saying is I think OBJ is going to be available for them, and that conversation will be had.
I don't think they're going to go enough. All right, maybe Bears are 6.5 point dogs in Pittsburgh.
6.5.
Yep.
Give me the spread. I think the Bears. I don't want to go first. You go first. I
think the Bears lose this game 17-14.
17-14. Yeah, I'm gonna. I don't know, man. The Steelers have been really, really uninspiring. I mean, they've lost games at home. Lately? Yes, I have watched the Bears lately, but this seems like okay, I'm gonna pick the Bears, and I'm gonna tell you why. And I'm gonna fuck it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna pick the Bears. I'm gonna go Bears win 2013. Bears win 2013. They won on a touchdown in the final 5 minutes, and their defense holds up. Justin Fields, first game on primetime, Monday Night Football. I think you're gonna see a different player under the lights. He thrives under pressure. I think that's gonna have a difference. And I can't. Jake and I have been agreeing too much. I think we've agreed on pretty much every game other than one. I can't do that. I can't agree with Jake too much. I have to go somewhere different. He picked the Bears to lose. I'm going to pick him to win. This is what I do anyway. I'm the optimist. Bears win 2013. Justin Fields looks good under the lights.
All right. That does it for another episode of Bears Nation Podcast. Thank you to Tom Waddle for coming on. We really appreciate his time. And for talking with us. That was awesome. The guests roll on. That was great. Kevin, thank you, of course, as always, for being here. Thank you to the listeners and to the people watching. We appreciate you, the people on Twitter. Jake Carmel, I'm sorry. We ran out of time. Otherwise, I would have brought you in, buddy. But anyway, for myself, for Kevin, this has been Bears Nation Podcast. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you next time. And as always, bear down.